What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Did y'all see that? What?
Let's just throw Scream 6 in there for like
It
my
was good.
favorite movie. It was really good. The best of the franchise, in my opinion, since the first one.
Yeah. Can you feel the love? Well, I mean, I know I can. The love for all this awesome entertainment industry news coming out of Hollywood. Today, we'll be discussing Euphoria, starting production on season 3. Finally. The Captain America reviews and early numbers. Another A-list star joining Dexter Resurrection. And more. Dustin, what are you looking most forward to this week?
Well, I gotta tell you, obviously, the Captain America stuff, because as we've established over the 8 seasons we've been doing this, I'm a comic book geek, and I'm excited for that one. I was pumped. We're gonna talk about the return, finally, you say finally, this one too, finally, The Accountant 2. Yeah, Ben Affleck and Johnny Bernthal are coming back. But you know what I'm really most excited about? Because as we've also established over all these years, I'm an 80s fan. And oh boy, I cannot wait to dive into the big return. Finally confirmed. It's in the works. It's been confirmed. It's coming. And I can't wait to talk about it. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to tell people what it is because you got to listen. But oh my gosh, if you're a fan of the 80s, you are going to be pumped. Just like me.
There we go. Yes, so much great industry news happening this week. So, man, oh man, let's dive into it. Hello, everyone. So you want to start a podcast but have no idea where to start? Well, Crazy Ant Media is here to help you. We want to assist you finding your VFE. What's VFE, you ask? Well, that is your voice, your format, and your equipment. These are the 3 biggest essentials you need to start your podcast. All those hours watching non-stop YouTube videos or all those random website links, those are done. Just hop on a Zoom call with us and we'll talk about everything you need to know to create your own podcast and find your voice. Plus, we will send you home with a 12-page packet over everything we just discussed. It's very in-depth. It is definitely a must-need while trying to start your first podcast. Contact us at info@crazyantmedia.com today so that you can start finding your podcast voice for tomorrow. What's up, guys? Oh my goodness, episode 285 this week. And you guys know your host with the most, myself, J. Logan Austin, aka JLo Fantastic. And then, of course, my co-host, Dustin and Bergman, aka The Mouse.
What's up?
Boy, oh boy, we've got a lot of good stuff like we teased earlier. But before we jump into all of the latest and greatest industry news coming out of Hollywood, please be sure to leave a rating on this podcast. Comment below and tell us what you actually think about this show. Because if you didn't know, leaving a rating on the podcast or liking, sharing, anything that you do that helps support this podcast, it actually helps it get seen by more people who enjoy entertainment news, but especially those who are trying to break into the entertainment industry. Us here at Crazy Ant Media are all about lending the helping hand, so that's what we're here for. So that's why this podcast is a great one-stop shop for anybody trying to break into the entertainment industry.
For sure.
And then, of course, before jumping into the industry news, be sure to head over to our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear. We've got a little bit of something for a little bit of everybody. So we love seeing everybody rock their Crazy Ant Media merch. It always fills our heart with joy, especially on this Valentine's Day weekend. So like I said, be sure to head over to our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start taking advantage of those crazy promotional sales we have for some crazy cool gear.
22% off right now, if I'm not mistaken. So hurry up on over there and get it.
There it is, man. There it is. Well, of course, we're going to be starting off with the juggernaut Disney and the film that they have releasing this weekend and the film that is on Dustin's blockbuster or box office lisp, his box office draft. Captain America Brave New World has now had the biggest opening weekend for this specific year, 2025. And it ripped into the $40 million across Friday, which includes $12 million on Thursday. Now, that is coming out of 4,100 screens across the world. Now, that already clears the record-holding $36 million debut for Dog Man that came out last week, so we already went past that with Captain America Brave New World. And it also keeps the latest adventure and the fourth solo cat movie on track for the 4-day opening weekend projections for about 90 to 95 million. Though extended President's Day holiday frame, of course, is that 4-day weekend. But I also
Yes,
think it's going to go past that. I think it'll hit the $100 million
I think
mark.
so.
And it also means that Marvel Studios extends its unmatched run of all time, which is absolutely crazy. All 34 of its films have opened #1 at the box office,
That's
and nobody even wants to compare with it. It's
no.
kind of wild. Now, compared to other films in the Star Spangled series, Brave New World should debut higher than 2011's First Avenger, the first installment of the Captain America franchise. That one had a $65 million opening weekend. Now, this one is close to 2020 or 2014's Captain America Winter Soldier that had a $95 million opening, but far below the 2016 of Captain America Civil War. Of course, that is the biggest opening this franchise has had so far with $179 million. Now, Brave New World did cost more than $180 million to produce, plus its marketing costs. So, true success of the film will be measured about how it holds on to the #1 spot, if it does in these next couple weeks, because it definitely needs some strong word of mouth after landing some of the worst reviews for the MCU in its entirety, which is kind of crazy because there's so many bad films out there. There's a lot of good films, but there's so many bad films that people find the good in more than what they actually found in this film. Now, Dustin and myself have seen this film. Is it the best Marvel film of all time? No. Is it the best Captain America of all time? No. But I mean, they have some hurdles. You know, they had a lot of reshoots that they had to do, and you're bringing in a new Captain America, which tends to, have the audience question a couple of things when going to go see the movie. How is Anthony Mackie going to play Sam Wilson as the new Captain America? And overall, I think he did a pretty decent job. Is it the blockbuster bang, Marvel is back that I was hoping for? No, but it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
See, I didn't expect it. I didn't go into it wanting it to be the Marvel is back movie. I think that's for Daredevil. I think that was for Deadpool and Wolverine. This is exactly what it was supposed to be. This is a setup movie for the next Avengers. It's what it's always meant to be. And that's exactly what it did. It delivers on what it was supposed to deliver. It introduces the new Captain America and Falcon. It cleans up old storylines from the Hulk and the Eternals. And it kind of teases you, post-credit scene, for what's coming. It was never meant to be anything other than that. And for all these haters out there saying it's confusing or they don't well, then you should have fucking watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because all the questions that I've seen people asking or saying don't make sense were answered in the series. Duh. This was all set up. He became Captain America in that series. And if you had any questions about that, maybe you should just go back and watch the series. That's how that works.
I am curious though, because you did put it on your box office draft. So if you thought about it like that, I mean, I'm curious to why you put that one over a Thunderbolts or Fantastic Four on your draft.
Well, Fantastic Four is on my draft too, I think.
It's not. It's on mine.
Because I think this is going to make enough money to where it's profitable. But it's still, I think this one is in line. If you see, it's an origin film basically for Sam's Captain America, right? It's in line. It's going to make more than the origin of Steve Rogers' Captain America. It is what it's supposed to be. I think that, people are comparing it to Civil War is ridiculous. Civil War was a mini Avengers movie, plain and simple. And it made so much money on its opening weekend for one reason and one reason only. People wanted to see Spider-Man. It was the debut of Spider-Man in the MCU. That's why it made massive amounts of money over the other Captain America movies. There's no other reason why it did that. And I think this is just, if it underperforms, in my opinion, it's because of the hate culture that has been manifested since Scorsese said what he said. Everybody now is dumping on Marvel for no reason. It's what we do in this country, in my opinion, and I'm going to politicize here a little bit, but when something becomes successful, this country turns into tear it down mode. It makes no sense to me. This is the most successful film franchise in cinematic history. It's done what no other franchise has ever even come close to doing. Not Star Wars, not Jurassic World, none of them. This is by far the 17 years of consistent interwoven storytelling that's delivered. And you can't argue success. 34 number one films at the box office. Even when they open less than what they were supposed to or underperform overall, they still open at number one. Nobody will ever match that record. So you just need to get off the hate of the Marvel movies, guys. This is a long-term extended storyline situation as if you were reading comic books. So go back, watch the shit you missed, understand that they're laying groundwork for story points that are going to be 4 years from now, and just get on board and enjoy it. It's fun. This was fun. Red Hulk was fun. Watching the fight sequences, that battle scene over the Indian Ocean, it was fun. It's just good popcorn fun action. And I don't know. I just hate the hate. You know what I'm saying?
It does suck, and I completely agree, but I mean, it still goes with my theory that I don't think Marvel will ever recap the greatness that was the Infinity Saga ending with Endgame, because I mean, since then we've had, you know, some good lukewarm movies that have come out since 2018, 2019, but it hasn't regained that popular success. And I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine is kind of like its own standalone thing because people have been waiting for that forever. But I am still worried about Marvel. I don't know what we're gonna see moving forward, or are we just gonna be here for all these lukewarm films until we finally come back to Avengers films?
Well,
I think just worried.
I think the Avengers Endgame thing, you know, we had a middle phase where it kind of was, you know, there was no climactic, oh my gosh moment, but it's been building to the next climactic, oh my gosh moment, which will be Secret Wars. We've got Avengers Doomsday, but that's kind of like Infinity War. And then Avengers Secret Wars will be the end game. This is where it's going to be stacked with every Marvel hero that in existence will be in the film. There's going to be a massive fight. It's going to be a massive payday. People will not survive it because it's going to be the collision of the multiverse into one planet. And it will be the end game of this phase. But it had to get the buildup. That middle phase, without any climactic movies, with no Avengers movies, if you will, was just the bridge. And I think we will reclaim it with... There's no way Secret Wars doesn't match the success of Endgame, in my opinion. It's too big a storyline with too many heroes and too many results that will tear at people's hearts. Because like I said, people will not survive that. They've already said it. They've already said that when the multiverses crash and the one world exists, many of the people that we've become to know and love won't survive. They won't move forward in the MCU. So there's already tugging, you know. So we'll see. I think we needed. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think the middle set of movies with no Avengers movies was disappointing for a lot of people. But I think that you just had to have that forward vision and know that Secret Wars was coming. And I guess I have a little, because I know what Secret Wars is because of being a comic book geek. So I know the epic nature of what that film will be. So I'm excited. I just, I think it's going to be big. I don't know. Sadie Sink, she's big, right? She's killing it lately. She's everywhere. And she's got a new movie coming out. And I watched the trailer for this thing, y'all, and it's out there, but it's pretty freaking awesome. Sadie Sink is apparently liberating the wasteland with a guitar and her singing voice. In what? Well, the first trailer for Odessa, an original rock opera from Searchlight Pictures set to debut on Hulu. Now, I know what you're thinking, rock opera. They either work or they don't, right? In past experiences, they're either really good or really bad. This one looks like it could be really good. In the colorful first look at the musical, Sink's character is seen both in her farm girl origins and along her journey in a cyberpunk-esque post-apocalyptic city ruled by the powerful influence of sort of sadistic entertainment mogul. Kevin Harrison Jr. and Regina Hall also star in this film. Now, Odessa will have its world premiere on March 8th at the South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin. Famous, big, huge film festival. That's big. And after its South by Southwest premiere, Odessa will debut directly on Hulu on March 13th. Sadie's got a good singing voice, and this one is definitely out there. I watched the trailer and I felt like I was tripping on acid. I mean, it's out there. It's colorful. It's weird. But I think it's going to be good. There's a love story at the heart of it, just based on what I saw in the trailer. It looks apparently like there's a little love story going on. And I don't know. I'm in. We'll see. We'll check it out.
It definitely seems like Hulu is trying to lean more into the FX realm, which will be interesting for future down the line, future projects, if FX will just merge in with Hulu, and that will be, Disney's kind of like more edgy television, or not. So yeah, it's curious. It's very interesting to see. But I mean, speaking of FX, a limited series, Dying for Sex, is set its premiere date on Hulu. And the series will premiere with all 8 episodes on April 4th in the US on Hulu and internationally on Disney+. Now, if you don't know about this show at all, let us talk to you about it. The show was first reported to be in the works at FX in 2023, and it's based on the Wondery podcast of the same name and is inspired by the true story of Molly Cochran and her best friend, Nikki Boyer. Now, per the official logline, after Molly played a series lead, Michelle Williams receives a diagnosis of stage 5 metastatic breast cancer. And then she decides to leave her husband, Steve, played by Jay Duplass, and then begins to explore the full beneath and complexity of her sexual desires for the first time in her life. So, this woman is dying, and she wants to figure out the rest of her life, whether that be sexually, whether that be taking adventures, all of these different things. This is very interesting. It has a pretty decent cast attached to it, too. I mean, we talk about a Duplass brother, and we talk about Michelle Williams. So, I mean, yeah, like I just said, Hulu is leaning more into its edgier side of life with these different things, and I definitely think they're learning a thing or two from FX, so kudos to them.
Yeah, and this one's going to be, it's going to cause controversy, there's no doubt about it. Basically, what this whole thing's about is she learns that she's dying, and she goes on a sexual revolution. She basically takes a road trip with her best friend, which, by the way, Jenny Slate, who, she's great and everything, and basically just goes on a sex fest, having all different kinds of sex with all different kinds of people, and yeah, it's gonna cause controversy. Some people are gonna hate it, some people are gonna but you know what, I love it. I love that they're taking risks. I love that they're being bold, and I say go for it all the way. I'm all in. Jumping over to Fox, let's see. A lot of people, if you were, I think unless you were in Philadelphia or Kansas City, right? Almost everybody said they didn't like either team playing in this year's Super Bowl, but that apparently did not keep anybody from watching it, because after the finalized data came in from Nielsen, the total number of average viewers for Super Bowl 59 actually rose, are you ready, to 127.7 million people. That's a 3% increase over 2024's game, and it cements the game's status as the new biggest TV audience of all time. Now, according to Fox, viewership peaked during the second quarter of the game, when an average 135.7 million viewers tuned in between 8 and 8:15. I think that was word got out that Kansas City was getting their ass kicked. People tuned in to go, wait, what? And I think that's why we saw that big surge in the second quarter. But even still, out of all the top 10 most watched shows in history, the Super Bowl is 9 of them, right? MASH still holds in there with, 40, almost 50 million views for a TV show, which is just unheard of back in that day. But this is no surprise that it's one of the all-time. But the all-time, I was kind of shocked by, because a lot of people did say they didn't want to watch it because of the team. So, interesting.
Yeah, most definitely. I definitely feel like, people tuning in for the commercials, but that second half is probably the peak time for commercials too, because they kind of got a little lackluster towards the end as well. The whole thing was very, very freaking interesting. Yeah, it was not a super entertaining show throughout the whole thing. But in case you were wondering, though, speaking of commercials, the most watched commercial during the game was the Bookings.com ad featuring none other than Jim Henson's Muppets themselves, who, along with the regular non-Muppet humans, are looking for the best way to book their perfect vacation. Booking.com also had the most viewed Super Bowl spots in 2024 when they had Tina Fey, and then in 2023 when they had Melissa McCarthy. So they're figuring out their niche, okay? Super Bowl ads is apparently where they do best at. And I mean, especially with it being the beginning of the year, people are already tired and exhausted of life. So they're like, all right, let's book another vacation. And Booking.com does amazing. This is not a pre-sponsored ad.
No. Did they have one a few years ago too with Idris Elba? I
think so.
I think so. Yeah, they always do. I was surprised that was the number one most watched one though. I mean, there were a few good ones that I thought were but okay, Booking.com. Sure. All right. Here it is. I've been teasing it. This 80s guy, pumped. We're jumping over to Warner Brothers. And guess what? Almost 40 years after the original movie hit theaters, all the way back when this guy was a wee 15 years old in 1985, the Goonies are officially back. Yep, you heard that right. Warner Brothers announced this week that they have hired Patsy Ponacreoli to write the script for the sequel. Now, Steven Spielberg, Christy Makowsko-Krieger, and Holly Barrio will produce for Amblin Entertainment alongside Chris Columbus, who wrote the original Goonies script. Lauren Schuler Donner will executive produce. Now, there is no director attached to the sequel yet, and there are no plot details revealed yet. Duh. But we do know that these guys, Josh Brolin, Sean Astin, Corey Feldman, Ki Hugh Kwan, and Martha Plimpton, all starred in the original 1985 movie and are all expected to return. They've all been teasing it relentlessly over the last few months that a script was in the works. So now it's just been confirmed. Directed by Richard Donner in the original one, which of course was about this group of kids searching for a hidden treasure. And if you guys don't know what, I mean, it's like one of the best movies of all time. The original Goonies, produced by Spielberg, made $125 million worldwide at the box office from a budget of just $19 million. That's insane. It's gone on to become, of course, a cult classic and was elected, get this, guys, to actually be preserved in the National Registry by the Library of Congress back in 2017. That does not surprise me because, as I said, it's one of the greatest movies of all time.
There it is, man. Yep, I'm super excited about it. Love the first one, and yeah, definitely one that's on the classics list. That's for sure. Euphoria, finally, like we teased at the beginning of the show, they have started production on season 3, and I know it's been about 10,000 years since we've seen this freaking cast, and they've grown so old, so it's like, are they even high school kids anymore?
Right?
Of course, they do have a few new, fresh faces, along with the already rejoining cast members. We have Grammy Award-winning artist Rosalita, Super Bowl champion Marshawn Lynch, and a different world star, Kadeem Hardison, have joined the cast of the hit high school drama. Now, other new cast members are Toby Wallace, Daryl Brick Gibson, Priscilla Degato, James Landry Herbert, and Anna Van Petit, and a couple of others. Most of the main cast is returning, like I said, of course, like Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney, Hunter Schaffer, Jacob Elordi, Eric Dane, all the people that you know and love, and even Coleman Domingo, even with this man's success and stardom skyrocketing right now in the film industry. It is a long delayed, we know, it's freaking going to be 8 episodes for this 3rd season. Euphoria will take place years after the events of season 2. And remember, they have to deal with certain deaths that happened in real life to potentially play into this 3rd season as well. And they're talking about taking these characters out of high school, so predicted, right? And the 2nd season premiered back in 22 of January. And at that time, it was HBO's 2nd most watched show behind Game of Thrones. And I'm sure it's going to be a little bit different on that leaderboard now because HBO and Max came out with a couple of great freaking IP generated television shows that might be a little bit more popular than Euphoria nowadays.
Maybe.
But
Yeah.
of course, this series has received 25 Emmy nominations and winning 9 trophies altogether. But like I said, long awaited. A lot of the cast members have been asked about it for the past couple years, so we're finally getting it back together. Sean Livingston and Zendaya. So it's going to be great. I think it's going to be great. And I'm going to predict that it's going to be the last season, though, because of how difficult it was to get everybody back together and how long of a hiatus it was. So I think they're going to wrap it up with this third and final season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think most of the stars that we're used to, from the beginning are ready to move on from it. I do respect that they're all coming back to close it up, though, right? Like, and not leave it hanging. So much respect. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Everybody that stars on that show has gone on to massive success. They're all huge now. They're all working on massive projects. So to say, yeah, we're still going to come back to this and help clean it up, mad respect for them for doing that. I think the big delay is either going to be massive for it. It's going to have built the build up for it and momentum and people want, or it will have killed it and nobody will give a shit. It's a one or the other. I don't think there's any in between, right? Speaking of taking a risk, HBO I think is taking a risk on this one, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. John Lithgow is in final talks to play Albus Dumbledore in HBO's upcoming adaptation of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books. Now, along with Lithgow, the cast may include Papa Esidu, who is reportedly a top contender to play Potions Professor Severus Snape, Harry, Hermione, and Ron, the trio of main characters, of course. Now, here's why I said they're taking a risk. Will be played by newcomers. You heard that right. Yes, not the people this is a whole reboot, guys. Warner Brothers launched an open casting call for the kids aged between 9 and 11 in the fall of 2024. Now, the series is planned to run over the course of a decade with the intention of introducing new audiences to the story, while the original films, which were released between 2001 and 2011, remain at the core of the franchise and, of course, still available to watch on HBO. Understanding that all of the original people have aged out of the roles, right? In the books, they pretty much stay the same age, through the storytelling, and they've clearly all aged out of it. But this is a risk. Will new audiences gravitate to it? Will old audiences want to see new people playing the beloved characters? I think yes, I think there's still interest in this franchise. I think people will kind of tune in. And it might make huge stars out of the unknowns that they cast in the 3 main roles. So I'm betting it will do pretty well early on, but it is a risky move. People are either going to love it or hate it because they're so beloved with the original films, right?
Well, I definitely don't think it's a risk. I think it's a bank shot, and they're going to make a whole bunch of money off of it. I think that John Lithgow would probably be perfect for Albus Dumbledore.
Oh, yeah.
And, we announced this project probably about 7 months ago on the show. And I think people are taking it very generously, very curiosity. They're approaching it with positivity. I haven't seen a lot of negative comments about the reactions of them bringing everything back, because from people who read the book and then watched the films, they know that there was a lot of story that wasn't able to be told because these movies were already 2.5 hours long, and some films had to be split up into 2 different parts, like the Deathly Hallows. So I definitely think this is a bank shot. I think this is going to be very successful. I think it's going to be another huge stacked IP that they're going to continue to build off of, like Game of Thrones. The only thing is, you got to get J.K. Rowling to just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
That's it. You just don't have her say anything. Don't really even mention her any sort of press run or anything like that. Just continue moving forward, and I think this thing is going to do big freaking numbers for Warner Brothers Discovery.
I agree with you. I'm on board. I'm curious to see the new people that they cast, and I think it will do well. I just hope we don't see, because I'm right there with you. I feel like I agree with your assumption. I just hope, remember all the excitement and build up for The Lord of the Rings when Amazon announced a series and everybody was on board and they were like, oh, and then it just kind of like failed. It just wasn't great, even though they keep renewing it, even though nobody's watching it, kind of a thing. I just hope it's not that. But I think I tend to lean more towards what you said. I think it will. The interest is there. The books are beloved. I think it's going to do well. I really do think it's going to do well.
For sure. And I mean, that might be a little different from that might show the age difference between our social medias because like I never saw anybody who is excited about the Lord of the Rings one, but I know you come from the generation where Lord of the Rings was the freaking major franchise back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. But I think with it being a new younger cast and them gravitating more towards like a very wider range of an audience rather than what Lord of the Rings is doing, I think it's going to be, yeah, pretty good, like you said.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the idea of going with unknowns, right? Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
think
got to.
putting any known actors into those roles would be harmful for it. You need unknowns to catapult them because you want the audience to just focus on those characters. And right, so yeah, I agreed. Okay, let's jump on over to the Paramount. And apparently Paramount Pictures has acquired the rights to Thomas Ray's novella Silencer, enlisting Ben Jacoby to adapt it for the big screen. Now, this story follows a CIA field agent who is sent to bring in the ultimate CIA target who's been out in the cold for decades. An operative who dates back to the dark times of MK Ultra. The target is a silencer, which is someone who can apparently read minds and wipe them from a distance, making him almost impossible to find or catch. So how are they going to do it? I guess we'll find out in the
Interesting.
series, right? Like,
This is yeah, right up Paramount and Paramount Plus's alley.
yeah.
That's for sure. It's very Taylor Sheridan. It's very, procedural show. That they love that shit, and that's what they strive and make a lot of money on. So that's definitely going to be successful without a doubt. I'm sure, we're not going to see this thing for a couple years, but I definitely do think that when we do, Tracker's going to be a little bit older, Lioness will be a little bit older, and it'll be where like it comes in this brink of time to where it's going to take over for these other shows that I just
Well,
previously
yeah,
mentioned.
if they decide to do it, right? It's Paramount Pictures, so I don't even know if it's going to go to
Oh
that or
yeah, if
to
it's
the
a
movie
film.
first.
I
Well,
gotcha.
I don't know because we've got a story later on that's like movie studio, but it's going to TV. So, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen a studio buy something and then put it on TV. So, I'm with you. I
Yeah,
think it makes a I agree with your assumption. I think it sounds like a really cool series as
doesn't it?
opposed
Yeah.
to a movie, right? So, who knows?
That's hilarious. Well, the next big star that is joining Dexter Resurrection is the one and only Peter Dinklage. Oh my goodness, he's coming on to play Leon Prater, and he's described as a billionaire venture capitalist. Now, to the world, Leon is a generous philanthropist, but behind his polished exterior lies dark intrigue. As previously announced, Dexter star Michael C. Hall, of course, will reprise his role as the title serial killer in this series. No specific plot details are known about Resurrection yet, but the series will serve as a direct follow-up to New Blood, and production on the series began in New York in January and is planned for a summer launch. Now, of course, along with Dinklage and Hall, the additional cast members include Uma Thurman, David Zayas, James Remar, and Jack Alcock. So all good people coming back to play some amazing characters, I'm sure. And I really hope I see a Michael C. Hall versus Peter Dinklage's guy. I think that's going to be a battle of the minds, that's for sure. Because if you've watched Dexter before in the past, he's had to go up against some very smart individuals. And I feel like Peter Dinklage, every time he plays a role, he is a very distinguished, smart, intelligent individual. So I would love to see those two go head to head in a scene. But yeah, I'm super excited about this because I love Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones and, of course, all of the other things that he was a part of. But so this is a great addition to this cast.
Agreed, and I think Dinklage is an actor who always plays bad guys. He's great at playing bad guys, right? Like, so I'm excited to see it. And a billionaire venture capitalist, everybody hates those. So, it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of makes the character redeemable, but then also a bad guy to go up against Dexter, right? So, yeah, I'm all in on that. Jumping over to NBCUniversal, you guys. Our buddy John Papsadera is a busy man. That's all I'm saying. He must not sleep because we just keep getting names for the Odyssey. Mia Goth, Corey Hawkins, Nick Terebe, Jimmy Gonzalez, and Maurice Comte are now the latest to join the cast of Christopher Nolan's IMAX epic, The Odyssey. Now, details as to the parts that these are all playing, of course, remain under wraps. They join a growing cast that already includes Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Lupita Nyong'o, Robert Pattinson, Charlize Theron, Benny Safdie, John Bernthal, and John Leguizamo, Elliot Page, Bill Irwin, Samantha Morton, Jesse Garcia, and William Lee. John, slow down, buddy. Who are we not putting in this one? Was the goal to outdo Oppenheimer? Because this is like literally every A-list person in Hollywood apparently signing up for this film. It's set to hit theaters on July 17th of 2026. Nolan, of course, will write and produce as well as direct. And as always, his wife Emma Thomas will serve as executive producer under the pair's Syncopy banner. I'm so excited about this film. If there's a director that can pull off an ensemble of that size, it's him, right? He proved it with Oppenheimer. If you're going to put these, that is a lot of talent to balance. And he does a really good job of controlling egos. I won't say that a lot of these people have egos, but some do. And to be able to give them all fair time, I think this is the guy to do it. And man, this is going to be epic. Epic is the right word. Fuck.
Yeah, completely agree, man. Completely agree. Yeah, it seems like everything we watch, every time the credits start to roll, you see John Papsadera, and we're
For
just
sure.
like, our guy. That's our guy. I love to see it. I love to see it. Well, Robert Eggers' hit film Nosferatu will begin streaming on Peacock starting February 21st. Now, Eggers' extended cut of Nosferatu, which was never seen before in theaters, will also be available on the streaming service. Now, Nosferatu is nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Cinematography, Costume Design, Production Design, and, of course, Makeup and Hairstyling. Bill Skarsgård stars as Count Orlok, a.k.a. the title vampire in Eggers' retelling of a classic story. The cast also included Nicholas Hoult, Lily Rose Depp, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Emma Corrin, William Dafoe, Ralph Ineson, and Simon McBurney, and so many freaking more. A lot of people did not like this film, but I actually did. So if you haven't watched this, please be sure to do so. Go into it with like a filmmaker state of mind, I guess you could say, because the shots are brilliant and the story is interesting. It's weird, it's out there, but it's a horror movie, so what more could you ask for? So yeah, I definitely recommend it. I don't care what anybody says.
No, I totally agree. And you know what? While he does put some stuff out there, right, that you got to really be kind of like, well, Robert Eggers is a brilliant filmmaker. If you're an aspiring filmmaker or a film student or just somebody that's just getting started in the game, as far as filmmaking technique goes, I'm right there with you. This guy's brilliant. Go into it with that attitude and you will see a lot of valuable stuff that you can learn from this man on how he approaches making a film and telling a story. It's just, you might not agree with the story, but it's brilliant in the way that he tells them. He's just a really cool filmmaker, man. All right. As we said, it's Valentine's Day weekend and everybody's in love and feeling it. But you know what else it is? It's Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary weekend extravaganza, which kicked off on Friday with SNL 50, the homecoming concert, live from Radio City Music Hall. This thing had everybody there, not just musical performers, but the amount of A-list celebrities that were in the audience, it was just insane. Now, the 3.5-hour spectacle is now streaming on Peacock, so if you missed it, don't worry, you can watch it. And it featured some of the most popular musical guests to ever grace Studio 8H, including Arcade Fire, Backstreet Boys, Bad Bunny, Bonnie Raitt, Brandi Carlile, Brittany Howard, Chris Martin, David Byrne, Devo, Eddie Vedder, Jack White, Jelly Roll, Lady Gaga, Miley Cyrus, Mumford & Sons, Post Malone, Preservation Hall, Jazz Band, Robin, the B-52s, and of course the Roots. And speaking of the Roots, Jimmy Fallon, who served as master of ceremonies, kicked off things with a Blues Brothers homage It was epic. That's all I'm going to say. Audiences were also treated to, which also was pretty epic, the return of Bill Murray's Nick Valentine, a.k.a. the lounge singer, Will Ferrell and Anna Gasteyer's The Culps, and which was fantastic. And a new person, Martha Stewart, as one of the Gasteyers, and Fred Armisen as Prince, Maya Rudolph as the Prince Show sidekick, Beyonce, and more. And if you guys missed, Andy Samberg and Lady Gaga did a version of Dick in the Box that you do not want to miss. This thing was so hilarious, you guys. 3.5 hours is worth it. I know that seems long, but trust me, it was fucking epic. You guys gotta watch it. Gotta watch it.
It really is, man. Like, I love to see all of the old cast members coming back and all the old sketches coming back.
Oh, yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to watch this 50th season. I mean, it's very awesome. But I know a lot of people have been wondering, because everybody knows you can watch Yellowstone on Peacock. Well, 3 months after Paramount Network aired Yellowstone's finale, Season 5, Part 2, or Season 5, Part 2 is finally coming to Peacock on Sunday, March 16th. Now, while 6 episodes that comprise the back half of Season 5 may mark the end of Taylor Sheridan's mega successful drama, they aren't the end of the road, at least for a couple characters.
That's right.
As we told you on previous episodes, Kelly Riley, who plays the badass Beth, Cole Hauser, her husband, Rip Wheeler, have struck deals to reprise their roles in a new spinoff. All previous seasons of the series, originally led by Kevin Costner, are now available on Peacock. So I know we've all been waiting to see Season 5, Part 2, and so now you have a date to anticipate finally seeing all of the craziness that is Yellowstone.
Yes, it's a great ending. It's what everybody predicted, and I think there's a little bit of surprises here or there, but overall, I think they did a nice job of tidying it up and doing what they had to do because of the whole fiasco with Kevin Costner. And they did set up the spinoff really well, and it leaves doors open for other characters too, not just Beth and Rip. So I can't wait for everybody to see it. I think it's good. This one, not so sure about this one, but okay. NBC promises hot dishes and even hotter tempers in a new cooking competition series entitled Yes Chef. Duh, I wonder where they got that from. Hosted by none other than Martha Stewart and Jose Andres. Now, the series will see the two Emmy-winning kitchen gurus guiding 12 chefs with ego issues or short fuses through culinary challenges that will put their personal and emotional issues to the test. Now, the chef who best handles the heat, impressing both their food and teamwork while improving their behavior, will win the $250,000 grand prize. Yes Chef will premiere April 28th at 10 p.m. on NBC, following The Voice. Do we need this? Do we need to just keep trying to knock off Gordon Ramsay? He's got the market on this thing. I mean, I don't think we need this, but,
There's so many cooking competition shows. It's kind of crazy. Everybody just kind of picks their niche one and then follows it all the way. So, yeah, I mean, NBC, I feel like they had the least amount of cooking shows, so they wanted to jump more into the game with Discovery, I would say, or TLC, which I think is owned by Discovery.
Yeah.
So makes sense. Well, we're jumping over to another major studio that is Amazon MGM, and the estranged brotherly duo Ben Affleck and John Bernthal are back for The Accountant 2. Yes. The film released an official trailer showing Christian Wolf, who of course is Ben Affleck, back in action as the autistic accountant who works to uncook the books. In this new film, he is recruited to help solve a murder case by a treasury agent played by Cynthia Adati Robinson. In order to get to the bottom of the matter, the emotionally distant Christian must reconnect with his brother Brax, who is played by Bernthal, of course. After the events of the first film, then, of course, the first film brought in $155 million worldwide on just a budget of $44 million. So they were swimming in that cash money. But despite the mid-budget success of the first film, The Accountant 2 was stuck in development for about 8 years, which is absolutely wild. Gavin O'Connor returns to direct the new script from The Accountant writer Bill Duquesne, And Accountant 2 is also planning on releasing in theaters on April 25th. So be sure to stay on the move and watch out for that. I haven't seen the first one. I've heard good
Oh
things,
shit.
but definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, no, you definitely do. It's definitely a little niche movie, but it's so original. The concept was so. It's got Anna Kendrick, the first one,
Nice.
and it's definitely an original storyline. With basically an autistic killer, and cooks books for the mob. Yeah, it's really. But what I'm super excited about, most excited about, is because in the first one you see Bernthal's character a little bit, but he's not heavily. It's almost towards the end and blah, blah, blah. Throughout, it looks like he's going to be a major player in the second one. And so I'm super pumped because, as you guys know, I freaking love John Bernthal. I think he steals every movie he's in. He's just brilliant. And yeah, I'm pumped because it looks like he's going to be full on in this one. And the trailer was outstanding. The trailer has me pumped. So cannot wait. And I know also I cannot wait for this. I know you probably cannot wait for this. And my daughter, aka your wife, can probably not wait for this. This is exciting. The Legally Blonde prequel series at Amazon Prime Video apparently has found its young Elle Woods. Lexi Mindtree has been cast in the lead role of Elle, which will follow, of course, Elle Woods during her high school years before she went off to Harvard. Now, the original Elle Woods, the awesome Reese Witherspoon herself, made the casting announcement on Instagram. Now, the official logline for the series simply states, Elle follows Elle Woods in high school as we learn about the life experiences that shaped her into the iconic young woman we came to know and love in the first Legally Blonde film. This will be the first lead TV role for Mindtree's career. She's previously appeared on shows like Law & Order SVU and in TV movies like The Murdaugh Murders, Crowdsource Murder, and The Paramedic Who Stalked Me. Sounds like a lot of murder stuff. So this will be a change of pace for her, clearly, with a little bit of comedy, with Legally Blonde. So good for her, though. I saw the picture of her, and she does look like a young Reese Witherspoon. I mean, she's going to be totally viable in the role, so that's awesome.
Right? Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if her character implies at all that she wants to go to Harvard or that she wants to go to law school. Because I remember, she kind of just fell into it because she was chasing her high school boyfriend or something along those lines.
Yep.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what high school Elle Fanning is trying, or Elle Woods is trying to do with her life. That's for sure. But yeah, very interesting. Well, Sophie Thatcher is in negotiations to star opposite of Mark Edelstithen. Wow.
Sure.
Edelstithen in season 2 of Prime Video's Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Now, if her deal closes, the duo would be playing the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Now, Billie Eilish had been approached for the female lead, but didn't really materialize as the Oscar-winning musician is touring.
That makes sense.
Of course, she would not be available. But Amazon MGM Studios, which co-produces the series with New Regency, had been seeking an actor and actress in their 20s to play John and Jane, respectively, in season 2 with 1-year deals. Now, season 1 followed two lonely strangers played by Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, and who play the posed as a married couple as they both begin new careers as spies, taking on their aliases Mr. and Mrs. Smith, John and Jane. Now, season 1's finale involved John and Jane getting into a gunfight, leaving it unclear whether the two even survived. I'm hoping so, because we've heard through the grapevine that the two that played Mr. and Mrs. Smith in the first season potentially could pop in and out for the second season, so I'm hoping so. But we just finished the first season, and it's really good. It makes sense why it was nominated for so many things at the Emmys. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what this franchise does for Amazon MGM Studios on the streamer moving forward.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the showrunners were asked if this was going to be like a True Detective where every season they switch out the lead characters, and they wouldn't answer it. They said maybe.
It has to be, though.
Or maybe not. But, I mean, a 1-year deal implies that it clearly is only for...
Yeah.
But then, like you said, they've been teasing that Donald Glover and Maya will be at least making an appearance. So if that's the case, then maybe not. So I don't... Like I said, their answer was sneaky. It was like, maybe... Maybe not. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I don't know, works for True Detective, and I kind of like the idea of each season having a different Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I mean, that's kind of
Well,
cool.
yeah, I mean, in the first season, for those who haven't watched it, like they come across throughout their journey another Mr. and Mrs. Smith
Right.
and befriend them, and they're John and Jane, and it's the whole big thing. So there's other Mr. and Mrs. Smith out there.
Yep.
So yeah, I just think that would make sense.
Me too. Me too. What doesn't make sense is this next one. This is, I just have no words for this. Taylor Lautner will apparently star in and executive produce the scripted series Taylor Lautner, Werewolf Hunter, which, I'm not kidding, guys, is apparently currently in development at Amazon MGM Studios. Now, okay, prep yourself. Get ready, because this is a weird one. The official logline for the series states, after wrapping the final Twilight film, Taylor Lautner vanished from the spotlight. Fans speculated, tabloids theorized, but the truth is wilder than fiction. Taylor wasn't just taking a mental health break like he told everybody. He was preparing for his real calling. Taylor Lautner, Werewolf Hunter. What? Playing himself, Taylor is drawn into a secret society of werewolf trackers who need his unique expertise. As he navigates his double life, Hollywood actor by day, supernatural warrior by night, Taylor must wrestle with the ultimate irony, fighting the very creatures that made him famous. Between saving the world, reviving his career, and falling in love, he faces the ultimate question: what happens when your biggest role becomes your greatest enemy? What? What? Like, what? Taylor's a pretty talented guy, but I do not understand this one at all. Like, do we need him playing himself hunting werewolves? Like, what the fuck? I don't know. Is it just me? What do you think? Like,
I think this is a ploy to try to reintroduce him to audiences and remember the love that they had for him when he was playing Jacob in the Twilight series.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense, so they can kind of like reintroduce him, like I said. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird premise, that's for sure. And like, don't you want to stay away from your little tight-knit typecast box? But whatever. Do you, boo-boo. We'll see if your career is any sort of different after this. High hopes for you, but I mean, you know, I wouldn't have done that.
No.
That's for sure.
No.
That's for sure. Well, we're heading over to the streaming giant that is Netflix, and we'll be seeing more of Esther Roklov in the upcoming season of the hit television show Nobody Wants This.
Yes.
Now, Jackie Tan, who recurred heavily as the character in season 1, has been promoted to a series regular in season 2. Now, Esther is the sister-in-law of Adam Brody's character, Rabbi Noah Ruklov, and, of course, the wife of Timothy Simmons, Sasha. Esther did not shy away from her disapproval after Noah began dating the non-Jewish Joanne, played, of course, by Kristen Bell. After becoming a bit friendlier to Joanne, she declared in the season 1 finale that both Joanne and her sister Morgan, who's played by Justine Lupe, needed to go after Morgan became a bit too friendly with her husband, Sasha.
Yes.
If you guys haven't watched Nobody Wants This, it's a great freaking show. They're only 30 minutes episodes, so definitely be sure to check it out. It's great. If you're in your early, mid-20s, late 30s, this show is like around your area. But yeah, I think this show has many more seasons to come. I'm hoping so anyway. I'm crossing my fingers, but it's a great freaking cast.
And if you're in your mid-50s, it's a brilliant show in your area because it's capitalizing on, obviously, Kristen Bell and you know, her career and the OC from Adam Brody. And like, so yeah, it's got just a brilliant cast. If you're a Succession fan with Justine Lupe, it's just all in. Yeah, I think this is great. And yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, he did kind of flirt with the sister a little bit, which might have pissed off the wife. That's great. So this makes sense. I'm excited about this one. This one, apparently, I have not jumped on this one yet, but apparently this thing is a huge hit and everybody's loving it. So XO Kitty No Surprise has been officially renewed for season 3 at Netflix. Season 2 of the young adult series premiered on Netflix on January 16th. Now, Anna Cathcart stars in the series as Kitty Song Convey. Now, the official description for season 2 states teen matchmaker Kitty Song Covey is back in Seoul for a new semester at KISS. She's single for the first time in a long time and ready for a fresh start. No more meddling, no more drama. Maybe just some casual dating. Emphasis on casual. But she has more to worry about than her love life, as a letter from her mother's past sets her on a wild journey at new faces at Kisses bring change. As secrets unravel and bonds are tested, Kitty will learn that life, family, and love are more complicated than she ever imagined. Now, in case you didn't know this, XO Kitty serves as a spin-off to the film The All the Boys I've Loved Before film franchise for Netflix. Additional plot details and release date information will be revealed at a later date. I never watched the movies either, so I'm totally not in on any of this, but like I said, apparently it's a huge hit. And one of our friends, Colleen Foy, is the acting coach on this thing, works with all of the young actors and is killing it and doing a really good job. So maybe we can get the inside skinny from her about what's going on, or maybe we should just jump on it. I don't know.
Very funny, man. Very funny. Well, we're heading over to Apple to round out this week's industry news. Amy Adams is set to lead role in this new Cape Fear television series that's currently in the works at Apple TV+. Adams joins Javier Bardem in the show, which was picked up to the series at Apple in November with a 10-episode order. Now, the official logline for the series states a storm is coming for the happily married couple attorneys, Anna and Tom, when Max, who's played by Bardem, a notorious killer from their past, gets out of prison. This is the third on-screen telling of this story, following Gregory Peck's 1962 Universal Pictures feature Cape Fear, as well as the acclaimed 1991 remake directed by Martin Scorsese and starring Robert De Niro and Nick Nolte. So this sounds very freaking good. You're basically A Star Is Borning it, but you're creating it into a television show. It's always cool to see these different iterations. Now, this is what we call a revision. This is an idea for a social media post. We're going to freaking break it all down into 3 categories: revisions, reboots, and freaking
revivals.
Yeah, revivals. Like, we'll figure it all out. But yeah, this is an interesting revision. Great cast. So I think it's going to be good. I've never seen any of that IP, so I'll be excited to check that out for sure.
Wow, a Scorsese film that you haven't seen with Leah?
Know.
What? I'm shocked. Look, the Gregory Peck's version and the 91 version, phenomenal. Robert De Niro was scary as hell in that film. I'm not even gonna lie. It was shot right down the road in North Carolina, Cape Fear, North Carolina. It's a real location. And yeah, this is a terrifying story, and it's going to be interesting to see if the series can live up to it, like you said, because the first 2 films are highly successful and very good. I recommend, since you haven't seen either one, definitely watch Gregory Peck's and the remake, because both of them are a little bit different, but both stellar films, really are. Speaking of stellar, this guy is one of my favorite actors of all time, since ever seeing him on The Americans, just phenomenal. Matthew Rhys has apparently signed on for a leading role in the upcoming Apple TV Plus series Widow's Bay. The show was picked up for 10 episodes at Apple back in September of last year. Now, the official logline for this bad boy states that the show is about a mysteriously cursed New England island and its superstitious citizens, led by a mayor, who Reese will be playing, who refuses to believe their warnings. So he's apparently oblivious to the fact that some supernatural shit's happening on his island. But hey, Matthew Rhys is one of the best actors I've ever seen. He's phenomenal. So I'm in on this. I will watch anything he is in. I will give it a try. So can't wait. And again, Apple, I would agree. I think much like FX and Hulu, take shots. They take risks. They greenlight series that, stories are interesting, and we'll see if it's a hit or a miss, but they're willing to take the shots, and I love it.
Yeah, most definitely. Completely agree. Well, now it is time for the top 5 segment, man. And this week, in honor of Valentine's Day, we will be discussing the top 5 favorite romantic comedies. Now, the fun fact is we've actually done this list probably about 4 years ago,
Yep.
and some changed, some didn't. But if you weren't listening then, we'll give you a nice little reminder. And if you want to go back and look at that, you can find that on our YouTube channel under our top 5 romantic comedies from back in the day.
Yes.
But man, oh man, it's hard because there were some films that came out between now and then that I definitely had to put on the list. So, starting with my number 5, which is Crazy Rich Asians. I loved this film because it was different than anything I've ever seen before. You want to know why? Inclusion, the Asian culture. I didn't
Yeah.
see any sort of romantic comedy, or honestly, because I was young and whatever films that were showed to me or television shows, I didn't see these people in this race ever on screen love story. I have never seen anything like that. So I was happy and blessed enough to see this film, and I was honestly moved to tears from this storytelling. Just obviously, it's one of those that you've heard before. You have a disapproving mother of the girlfriend who's coming into the family. But honestly, it's a great freaking cast, and you have Oscar winners now. You have leaders of franchises, and they greenlit the second one to this thing like when it was still in theaters, and we
Yep.
haven't heard any word about it. I really hope they continue to do a second installment of Crazy Rich Asians, but the first one is so freaking good, and honestly, it's a beautiful, beautiful film and a great example of storytelling. So number 5 for me, Crazy Rich Asians.
I love it. I love it. And you know, it's interesting because at the time, it basically had every A-list Asian actor in it,
Hmm.
but there weren't many. It was like a
Yeah.
handful because at that point they were not being recognized in Hollywood at the level that they should have been. And since the success of this movie have just exploded. You know, now the Asian culture is everywhere and rightfully so and should be. But it's funny because at that time there was like a handful of people who had never really been in anything together and just boom. So yeah, that's a great pick. It's a great film too. Great story, great love story. Just love it, love it. My number 5, oddly enough, is my same number 5 from all those years ago. Home Again. Reese Witherspoon. Hello, duh. Romantic comedies with Reese Witherspoon just melt my heart. They're like always good. They're always fun. This one though, I really jump on and I really gravitate to this one for a couple of reasons. One, because it deals with the film industry. It's about young screenwriters trying to get their break, and Reese Witherspoon's character's father was like a Oscar-winning successful screenwriter, and so they're trying to get an in there, kind of a thing. But the other reason I really like it is because she was going through a divorce and she's just trying to re-find herself. And she had kind of fallen into this like stalemate of life and who she thought she was. And she starts obviously dating one of these 3 guys, or potentially all of these 3 guys. I don't want to say anything, give it too much away. But the whole thing of it is she starts to realize that, you know, just because you're at a certain age doesn't mean you have to stop living, and that you have to become old or that your life is over, kind of a thing. And the relationships really regenerate and revitalize her look on life and how to approach it and where she can go and not go. And in turn, she guides them and teaches them and where they think they can be and stuff. It's just a beautiful love story and romantic comedy that has a little twist that I don't want to give away, but it's a fun one. And if you haven't checked this one out, highly recommend it. Home Again.
Great pick, man. Great pick. It's almost like I heard that 4 years ago. Number 4 for me goes to Notting Hill. Of course, Hugh Grant. Of course, Julia Roberts. Already, right there.
Right
Boom, you're
there.
sucked in. But I mean, it's kind of a classic love story of, two different social classes and bumping into each other and not even really expecting the rest of your life to change. And I think that's what this film does well. It shows you that you don't have to be on the look or on the search for love. Love can just happen at a moment's notice, and especially when you're a bookstore owner in England, and, and then a famous actress comes in, and you have no idea what's gonna happen for the rest of your life, and then boom, you're just a girl standing in front of a boy, and all of the other classic lines in this film. But yeah, I mean, it's the telling of trying to adapt to the other person's lifestyle, especially when fame comes into play, and these characters do an absolutely amazing job at representing two different lifestyles meeting and then trying to balance each other because you're in love and you want to accept who the other person is, no matter what baggage, good or bad, that they come with. And this is a great example of that. So yeah, number 4 for me, Notting Hill.
Love it. And you can't go wrong with Julia Roberts. You just
Yeah.
can't. You can't do it. My number 4, When Harry Met Sally. Duh. It's one of the greatest films of all time. Has one of the most memorable, iconic cinematic scenes of all time, which just was recreated for a mayonnaise commercial during the Super Bowl, oddly enough. But fucking brilliant. Yeah, obviously, Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal just, I love it. I love it. But this one, I've always loved this film because this is a question that has been throughout time. And this film addresses the question, is it possible for a man and woman just to be friends? Can they have a relationship, a close relationship, and just be friends? This film answers that question, I think. And it might not be the way you think. If you haven't seen this, and by the way, you probably have, because duh, like I just said, it's one of the greatest films of all time and one of the best romantic comedies of all time. But highly, highly recommend checking this one out. It is a really cute, beautiful story that plays out over a series of years that really does address the question, is it possible for a man and a woman to be friends? Or does it have to cross into the becoming a relationship, a romantic relationship? They do it in such a beautiful way, and it's just, yeah, it's so memorable and such a beautiful film. When Harry Met Sally.
Very nice, very nice. Yes, of course, of course. Number 3 for me goes to a film that just came out about a year or two ago, and I think it's honestly one of the best romantic comedies that's come out in the past decade, and which is crazy because a lot of people are bashing on it, but it's a great film,
Oh,
and
it's a
I'm
great
probably going
film.
to watch it today after we get off of the recording. But I'm talking about Anyone But You. Of course, Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, their chemistry on screen is absolutely amazing. And then they created this great marketing push to
Brilliant.
think that everybody thought they were dating, and it was just this big thing that blew up out of nowhere, but it was actually Sydney Sweeney's smart brain to come up with that concept and to get people more intrigued in that film. We actually had the cinematographer Danny Ruhlman on our show and talked about filming this epic film. But yeah, I think it's just different than what we've seen before in the past. I love R-rated rom-coms too because it makes it more real.
Yeah.
You know, you make it more where like genuine to where this is how people actually talk, this is how people actually act. And like I said, one of the best rom-coms that's come out in the past decade. Anyone But You.
Totally agree. Totally. And mad respect for Sydney Sweeney's actual fiance for diving full in on her marketing idea. That took a very strong man to be able, because everybody bought that shit. Everybody thought her and Glenn were together, and the fiancés in the background go, no, it's all fake. I don't even know how she approached him with that idea. I'd have been like, you want to do what? But good for him, man. You're solid. That was solid. My number 3, as well as my number 2, I don't have a whole lot to say about it because you've seen it. I know you've seen it. Everybody has seen my number 3 and my number 2. And if you haven't, well, you just don't exist. I can't imagine that you even exist. My number 3, Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's. Enough said. If you have not seen this movie or any of the movies that were inspired by this movie, like Sabrina and just so many others, I don't know seriously where you've been at. This might be one of the greatest romantic comedies of all time. And literally, I think, and not that she wasn't already a huge star, but just like took Audrey Hepburn to a whole new level of superstar and icon. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's brilliant filmmaking. It's brilliant storytelling. Phenomenal acting. Everything about this is I can't say enough. Go watch Breakfast at Tiffany's. You'll be so happy that you did if you haven't seen it already. You'll love it, and you'll be obsessed with Audrey Hepburn. That's all I'm saying. My number 3, Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh, that's funny, man. That's funny. Number two for me goes to While You Were Sleeping. Of course,
Yes.
Sandra Bullock, Peter Gallagher, and a whole bunch of other freaking people in this cast. This is a great example of, again, not looking for love and then love just kind of falling into your lap or you falling onto the train tracks, either or. I mean, this is peak Sandra Bullock, so you get that the essence of her greatness. And I mean the the story is very entertaining. It's different than what we've seen before. I think, back then, that's when romantic comedies were really striving with different types of storytelling, because I felt like in the early 2000s it got kind of, whitewashed, and very whitewashed, I should say, because I mean, obviously, a whole bunch of white people, but it got very, I, I guess, torn. It's like they're doing the same thing. They're basically telling the same story. That's what I'm trying to say. But I think this was different from what those actually were. So it's definitely one that you have to watch. I remember watching this when I was a kid with my mom because it was one of her favorite movies. But yeah, if you haven't seen While We Were Sleeping, please be sure to do so. Number two for me, While We Were Sleeping.
Yeah, phenomenal cast too. I mean, aside from Sandra, it's Bill Pullman and Peter Gallagher, and like, yeah, just phenomenal cast. Really good pick. Really good pick. Number two, kind of like my number three. Do I have to say anything? I think this is probably on every single person's list of favorite romantic comedies, and could be primarily. And I was going back and forth of whether it should be at the top of my list. I kept bouncing back and forth, but this is one of the greatest romantic comedies of all time, set in an era that everybody loves, with a cast that everybody loves, and just I can't say enough. It's comedic, it's dramatic, it's suspenseful, it's beautiful, it's everything you want in a film, and it's a romantic comedy, and it's incredible. I'm talking, of course, about The Princess Bride. Again, I think this is one that everybody has seen, or if you haven't seen it, it's on your list to see. This one is filled throughout with all kinds of little spoilery kind of things and twists and turns. So I don't want to give away too much of the plot because it will disappoint the movie for you if you know. But it's just brilliant. This is probably the first time I ever saw Robin Wright in anything. And it just phenomenal. She's just a gem in this film. You fall in love with her, which is the point. I can't say enough about The Princess Bride. Trust me. You should have it on your list if you haven't already watched it. And if you have, watch it again. I watch it at least once a year because it's that damn good. The Princess Bride.
Yes, definitely one of the best comedies of all time.
Oh,
I
without
will say
doubt.
that. Number one for me goes to the same number one that it was four long years ago in a galaxy far, far away. And of course, I'm talking about 10 Things I Hate About You. It's got everything I know and love. A great cast with Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and so many others. Julia Stiles. And then teenage angst. Of course, we love teenage angst with a great soundtrack and just trying to get the girl. That's all we're ever trying to do. Get the girl. And this film does exactly that. It's a classic, of course, but if a lot of people don't know, Heath Ledger actually did not like the film because these are not the type of films that he wanted to do, but this broke him into the American mainstream media, so you got to do what you got to do. But it's still a great film. I mean, still, people go back and watch it all the freaking time.
Oh, yeah.
Allison Janney's in it, like so many different people. But yeah, it's on Disney Plus right now. I don't want to. I'm trying really hard not to give too much away about any of my films because I want y'all to just go watch them in
Yes.
general. But yes, number one for me, and probably will always forever be my number one for romantic comedies. 10 Things I Hate About You.
There you go. I mean, it's a great choice, and I'm right there with you. Just watch it if you have not watched it. It's a brilliant film, and yeah, it's a must see. My number one, duh. I think it's a lot of people's number one. I think it's a classic film that will forever hold up to the test of time. I think this will be around for as long as everybody's around. I'm talking, of course, about the ultimate Cinderella story, Pretty Woman, which, by the way, if you didn't know, was based on Cinderella. It's Gary Marshall's telling of the love story of a down and out female who just happens to be a prostitute who finds her Prince Charming. And it's the ultimate love story of her getting the happy ending. But it's a brilliant telling of, and by the way, this was a risk at the time for Disney. This was under the label of Touchstone Pictures, which had recently been created to allow Disney to show these type films. And they were all in on it. And the script was readapted to make it what it was. It didn't start off exactly the way that it ended up. But like I said, can you ever go wrong with a film that's like Cinderella? Like, the ultimate love story of down and out finding the Prince Charming and rescuing you from a life of despair and having the happy ending. I think that's what everybody's dream is in life, is to find the happy ending with the one you love. And that's everything that this movie is, and it does it in such an entertaining way. And I think, obviously, this is the movie that catapulted Julia Roberts into superstardom. Richard Gere's phenomenal. Hector Elizondo, just the whole cast, just brilliant. But and of course, Gary Marshall, one of the greatest comedic directors of all time, who obviously is sister, same, Penny Marshall. But yeah, Pretty Woman, duh. I mean, just go. I don't even believe you if you tell me you haven't seen this movie already. I just don't believe you. But if you're one of the rare odd beings, maybe from a different planet, that's just arrived, check this one out. You'll be happy that you did. It's a classic. Everybody loves it, and you will too.
There it is, man. There it is. Those are our top 5 favorite romantic comedies. We want to know what yours are. Be sure to comment below in the YouTube comment section. At us on Twitter, X, Threads, all the good places. Please be sure to do that. We love the fan interaction. But man, oh man, now we're going over to the box office recap from last week. We knew it was going to be the lowest weekend for the box office in 2025.
Yeah.
Every single year, Super Bowl weekend, nobody's going to the theaters. It makes sense.
It makes sense.
So number 1 was Dogman with $14 million. Number 2 was Heart Eyes with $8.5 million. Number 3 was Love Hurts with $5.8 million. Number 4 was Mufasa, The Lion King with $3.9 million. And number 5 was Companion with $3 million.
And to put that in perspective, just to show you guys what Logan is talking about, that combined total is like $39 million, which Captain America made in Friday. On Friday. Yeah. That's how crazy that is. But there it is.
There it is, man. There it is. And like we said earlier, this is the first weekend with one of our films from our box office draft on the docket. This was your third pick. And to remind everybody else what Dustin's picks were, it was Superman, Wicked for Good, Captain America, Brave New World, How to Train Your Dragon, and then the film I gave him, the Minecraft movie. So this is the first one out of our draft, so it's going to be very interesting. But go see it, man. Go see Captain America Brave New World. It is a good movie.
It is.
Paddington in Peru, Armand, Becoming Led Zeppelin, and Rounding. Of course, some of these are in select theaters near you, so be sure to check them out. Movies you could also still go see in select theaters possibly near you: Flight Risk, Honora, Wolfman, Den of Thieves 2, and then One of Them Days. Now we're heading over to the IMDb Pros Top Trending segment. The top trending movie is Fantastic Four, The First Steps, of course, because of the trailer. Yep. It was everywhere. People are loving it. I have that one on my list, so we will be sure to stay on top of that and see how that goes. The top trending TV show is Severance, and then, of course, the top trending star is Vanessa Kirby, because she is Miss Fantastic. That is for sure. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for getting crazy with us on episode 285 of Inside the Crazy Ant Farm. We got to thank you one more time. Anything you do to help this podcast or any of our podcasts or anything we do here at Crazy Ant Media, we appreciate it. And of course, be sure to like, follow, subscribe on all podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio. And then, of course, follow us on social media. The company is at Crazy Ant Media. The podcast is at ITCAFpodcast. Our mental health podcast is at Everything OKP. And then, of course, us personally. Myself, I am at J. Logan Austin. And
I am at Crazy Ant CEO.
That's right, man. That's right. And then, of course, like I said, subscribe to the YouTube channel and visit our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can get a little bit of something for a little bit of everyone. That is for sure. But this was a great freaking episode, man. That's for sure. We wanted to wait because of Valentine's Day, but I'm also glad we did because of Captain America. We both got to go see the film and give our thoughts and opinions on it. But yeah, and I think, this foreseeable future, these upcoming next couple of weeks, we'll start to see bigger and better things at the box office. Captain America was the first blockbuster really to hit the Cineplexes this year, and I think it's going to start an avalanche, a downward or an upward spiral, I should say. And I think, like I said, it's going to be the biggest year for the box office in the past decade.
I think so, and I think Disney will maintain its throne. It reclaimed the top of the box office throne last year. I think it'll hold again this year, because boy, do they have a bunch of stuff between Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and 20th Century. They've got some serious films coming. I think they're gonna just dominate again this year, like they always do. It's gonna be beautiful. Yeah, man. I love everything about this, and you know what I really liked about everything that we were hearing coming out of Hollywood this week? It was a nice blend, in my opinion, of old stuff coming back, nostalgia, right, with the Goonies and so many Harry Potter and some, but then so much new original stuff, which we normally don't get. We don't get a whole lot of the mix of the nostalgia and the old with new original ideas. It seems like we always talk so much about old IP. So it's a nice blend, and I'd like to see Hollywood continue that trend. Let's keep it a nice blend of developing old nostalgic IP, but also giving us new, fresh content. I love that, man.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. And I mean, talking about utter dominance, we have to recognize and bow down, bend the knee to the one, the only Oprah.